Bien, pues vamos a dar comienzo a esta presentación de esta tarde. Tenemos el gusto de que nos acompañe el doctor Ulrich Teichler. Él es doctor por la Universidad de Bremen, en Alemania, y profesor de la Universidad de Kassel desde 1978. Fue director durante 16 años del Centro Internacional para la Investigación de la Educación Superior de Kassel en esa universidad, que anteriormente se llamaba Centro para la Investigación de la Educación Superior y el Trabajo. Ha sido profesor de tiempo parcial en instituciones de educación superior de países como Estados Unidos, Bélgica, Japón y profesor visitante de la Open University del Reino Unido. Sus líneas de investigación son educación superior y mundo del trabajo, comparación internacional de los sistemas de educación superior y cooperación internacional y movilidad en educación superior, además de educación y selección social, la profesión académica, acceso y admisión, educación profesional continua y evaluación de la educación superior. Ha realizado actividades de consultoría para la UNESCO, la OCDE, el Banco Mundial, el Consejo de Europa, la Comisión Europea, diversos gobiernos nacionales y organizaciones universitarias a nivel nacional e internacional. Es miembro de diversas asociaciones, entre ellas la International Academy of Education, y es como miembro de esta Academia Internacional de la Educación que nos visita en esta ocasión en México, en donde tuvo la gentileza de aceptar una participación en este departamento, y a partir de mañana iremos a una reunión en Guadalajara sobre formación de profesionales e investigadores en educación. Tiene una gran cantidad de publicaciones, más de 1000 publicaciones académicas para que aprendan. Y en el díptico tienen ustedes los nombres. Yo quisiera nada más mencionar que nos acaba de entregar este nuevo trabajo, el más reciente, que es empleabilidad y movilidad de los graduados de licenciatura, podríamos decir, de bachelor en Europa, los resultados clave del proceso de Bolonia. La presentación que nos hace hoy el doctor Teichler realmente parece muy interesante para nosotros y para los mexicanos. Ya nos dirá él si el título es en broma o en serio. ¿Por qué las universidades latinoamericanas y los académicos latinoamericanos están tan altamente satisfechos? Y es una discusión de los resultados de investigaciones o encuestas comparativas muy recientes. Entonces le voy a dar la palabra al doctor Teichler.
Thank you.
So you just go.
Yeah.
There you are.
Yeah. Thank you. And then I put here. Well, thank you. It is a pleasure to be here. I was here last year, and I had the opportunity to meet various of my colleagues from Mexico over the years. You know, I have already gray hair, so I have had some opportunities to meet some colleagues. And for me, it is always a mix of an opportunity, of course, to tell some people what I have learned in my life, but at the same time, learn every day new things. And also this morning, when we were sitting together in a seminar, understanding the interpretations from different people. So it is still new and inspiring for me. You know, you have already had a long day, so that's why my lecture will be really more for something what I believe is good for the end of the day. So you see, first of all, I do not know whether my lecture is clear, but I tell you the whole story on the first page. So if you have a lot to do tonight, you can leave now because you know already my story. But also it is a bit not too serious. Yeah, I also think we should not be always extremely serious. We should have also a little fun in research. Yeah, and of course, you know, to do comparison, we do all the time. Yeah, I don't know, when I go, everywhere where I go, when I meet somebody, we talk about universities. We have a lot of ideas what we are doing differently, yeah, in Mexico or in Germany than other countries, or what the others do and what they do so good and well. We have a lot of ideas, but sometimes they are only based on rumors, not on solid analysis of documents, or not on solid, let's say, empirical analysis. And you see, I often ask myself, why do we have so few empirical analysis on higher education, which are comparing different countries? Although in conversation, we like to talk so much about this and this and this country. There are very few. And my explanation for this is, most of the money, yeah, for higher education research is national money. Yeah, and often it is also from organizations who are involved in practical decision making. And it's very difficult, I tell you, to raise money for comparative empirical projects in higher education. Yeah, I'm quite happy. I could argue I had more opportunities than other colleagues, yeah, to be involved in this empirical projects. But I tell you, it was very difficult to raise funds, and also it was very difficult to do this work. You cannot just say, let's formulate a common questionnaire, yeah, and then we have the data, and you can just easily think. Then you suddenly find that certain words have completely other meanings. Yeah, we talked this morning, what is qualification, what is competences, you know, what is university, even what is universities. You know, they have different meanings, and this makes it more difficult. But yeah, as I said, I was lucky that I was involved, and I tried again and again. Some are coordinated, some I was involved in the team who did it. But there were two big projects, yeah, which were questionnaire survey projects, where some Latin American countries are included and some European countries are included. Okay, there were also other countries, but I just take, I do not want to make it over complex for tonight. I left out the other countries, just a few Latin American countries and a few European countries. And yeah, one was on university graduates, yeah, bachelor and master level graduates, not doctoral. And the other was on academic profession, yeah, people who work as docents, professors, etc., teachers, lecturers in universities. And I'd say, well, both projects come to similar conclusions. At the end, I will also talk where they are different, but roughly saying they come to similar conclusions. I would say the Latin American respondents, this means both the university graduates and the scholars, assess the situation of higher education and assess their own professional situation more positively than their European counterparts. Maria and I were just already sitting together. We could say it could be interested to include other countries. For instance, we say, okay, on average, there are even some countries which have more negative assessments, for instance, in Japan. But yeah, I said, I think it's enough if we try now for the Latin America European thing. And what I want to do, yeah, of course, I want to show you these results. But then I will warn you, at the end, there will not be so many, how should I say, finale furioso explanations, but there will be a lot of question marks. So my PowerPoint presentation will end with question marks. So I need help from you, you see, to explain this. Yeah, so we are in work in progress. Yeah, here. So I give you the data, and I start with interpretation. But then I say, okay, now there will be question marks. Please, let's try. You see whether we can get together. Okay. First of all, on university graduates. We had many national surveys in different countries, and we had also international statistical analysis. How many people have a university degree and how many earn they from general statistics. But we had no real studies where one would look at questionnaire surveys, what is really happening to graduates and how do they see a relationship. There didn't exist comparative studies. So I was successful in, what was it, 1997, to get money from research base, some funds of the European Union, and getting people from different countries. And this project was called CHEERS, the second one, which I tell you. But then 5 years later, we did a new one. And that time I said, I do not want to coordinate it again. And then some people from the Netherlands were coordinating this. And this second was called Reflex, the reflective professional in a modern society or something like this. And then our Spanish colleague from this Reflex, for both of the CHEERS and Reflex project, he went to many Latin American countries and visited universities and said, why don't you join this kind, doing a common questionnaire, then you can look what is happening to your own graduates, and also some comparison will be possible. But unfortunately, you see, he succeeded only in a small number of countries to persuade many universities to participate. This was in Mexico and Chile, whereas in other countries this was a very small number, so they often are put together other Latin America, from other countries. But at least, you see, we can compare a few European countries and Mexico and Chile in this context. Here you see I mentioned what the abbreviation meant. This Proflex, the Professional Flexible en la Sociedad del Conocimiento. So I have to, and partly they got also money there from this Alpha program, to coordinate this, whereas the individual universities, I think they were paying their own survey. And here I mentioned the publication which has been. So now I only pick a few results of this. So you see, we asked what emphasis was there on different modes of teaching and learning, and we gave a list of about 10 different things. Roughly 10, but I give you only this example of those things where the differences were relatively big in between the countries. There's a mistake in Trabajos and Grupo. It should be 3.7 in Europe, but still you could say. So according to this, Latin American students do much more of project learning, do much more of group work in studies. They are much more, let's say, in problem-based types of projects, and they learn much more, let's say, on methodologies, learning for practice orientation. So I personally thought this all were, from my value judgment, these are always very nice kind of ways of broadening your competences beyond routine lectures. So, and according to these results, we can say, so the life of the methods of teaching and learning in Latin America must be very impressive, whereas in Europe you have much more of traditional front class teaching. This I would draw this conclusion. Here, I gave you here before this, I gave you only the average between Latin America and Europe, and here you have a slightly longer list, not only so that you see what other things we also asked where the difference were not that big, and here you also see that the differences. But let's take this example, trabajos en grupo. So you see 5 is mucho, 1 is nada. So you see in all Latin American countries, trabajo en grupo is more spread than in all European countries, according to this kind of data. Okay, this would be just one example, how they perceive this. And then we ask them, has your study be valuable for you, for your professional career? And there you also see, that in all this difference, they say it's much more valuable. You see this 4 dimensions. I don't have to repeat this. I can do this. But as you know, my Spanish is not without accent. So but I'm sure you see this very quickly. The difference here you see are slightly smaller than what we had on these methods. But still, they are impressive. And here you have the table from the report again. And there you see again, for instance, take this first line, empezar a trabajar. There you see, so in all these Latin American countries where you had enough respondents, they said this is more than in all the European countries. So although it's not that big the difference, it is consistent here again across all the countries. And then we also ask them, you see, what do you see with of the relationship between the field, what you studied, and the professional area you work in? We can take this as a kind of horizontal link, one measurement, possible measurement of horizontal link. There you see the differences are very small, but still they go in the same direction. That this field is the best for the field of my field of study was the best for my occupation. These are 36 of Latin American saying and 33. Or just look at the bottom, that there was no study at all needed for this. Only 4% of Latin Americans. We talk so much about over-education and something in this survey. Only 4% said, for my work, no study was needed, as compared to 7 in Europe. It's also small, but as I said, it's interesting. It's a small difference. And here you see, this is not completely consistent to all countries. You see there are enormous differences to what extent they say this field is the best. So this is the highest percentages in Chile, and then second highest you find here in Germany, from the countries, and here it is very low in Spain and Uruguay. So The means were similar, a little more positive in Latin America, but there is a variation between countries, so we cannot just take zero. But then, so the final thing I wanted to show you from this project is how satisfied they are on the job. We discussed also things like this morning. Yeah, and there again we have a scale from another 1 to 5. 5 is positive mucho here. And here you see that again there is a difference between countries. It is not extreme. It's not as extreme as we were talking initially about this modes of learning, but still it is there and is consistently there. You see it's more positive, more higher satisfaction on average in all Latin American countries than in all European countries. Still there are some differences. You see, as I said here, you find now in Latin America it's very similar across all countries, very small difference between the different Latin American countries, whereas in Europe there's a little more difference, and interestingly enough, so the Germans and French graduates are more satisfied than the British and Spanish. In Spain, it might be a problem with employment conditions. Why are German and French graduates more happy with British graduates? Yeah, I discussed it this morning. I think on average, also the British students have a good close professional link, what they learn, and they think the British system does not do enough for this professional link. This is my main explanation for this difference. But as I said, for us now the main thing is the Latin American university graduates are more satisfied. Okay, now the second survey where I want to take these examples, this is a survey of the academic profession. That it means it is a survey of full-time employed academics working at institutions of higher education, which leads at least to a bachelor, at least to a degree. And so there we have undertaken this survey a few years ago in 19 countries, and among them there were 3 Latin American, Mexico and Brazil and Argentina, and 7 from Europe. And now we do even an additional survey in Europe. And so the first question was that they were asked to assess the working condition. Do you have a good room for yourself, a good library, a good, good laboratories, good class lectures, and something like this. You see, I wrote this list here of 8, but I presented you the average of the average. You see, what did the professor say on average to the average of these 8 dimensions of the working conditions? And there you see I have to modify my initial thesis. It's not true that the professors all think that their conditions are better in Latin America than Europe. Later I will show you they're also more satisfied, but in conditions now, as I said, the students said better conditions, but the professors now they don't